The following presentation is a very, very special episode of the Mike Vanek Sucks Podcast Network. And you can go watch it anytime you want on our YouTube channel. Check us out. Sounds from the Underground on YouTube. All right, guys, enjoy the show. Why is it not playing?
Technical difficulties. You'll get it.
I love this. Mike Vanek Sucks Podcast Network presents Sounds from the Underground. And ladies and gentlemen, do we have a special one for you today? One of my heroes is joining us today, Caton W. DePena from Hyrax. How the fuck are you doing, sir?
Good, bro. How you doing, Mike? What's happening, brother?
We are having a thrash metal afternoon out here in Bristol, Virginia. And the big news, I'm sure you've heard of the news taking over the headlines the last 2 days. Forbidden got back together. What are your thoughts on that, sir?
I think it's a good one, man. I think anytime you have a legendary band come back and start doing stuff again, it's a good thing. It can only help. Can only help the scene, you know. So we need more soldiers, and they're definitely one of the Bay Area's legendary bands. So yeah, welcome back. Welcome back.
It's Craig LaCicero, of course, Steve Smythe, Matt Camacho, their bass player, and then they added Chris Contos and Norman Skinner, who is a Bay Area heavyweight. Great dudes. I am stoked to see what comes from that. You've been a very busy guy, my friend. You just played Santiago, Chile, Lima, Peru, the Poor Kids Mansion in LA with Ghoul.
Yeah.
You got tons of stuff coming up. How are things in the Hyrax camp? And dude, tell us about what's been going on.
Well, it's been obviously pretty busy. I mean, we had some time over the last 3 years to start thinking about things and get stuff together because basically the music's what kept us from losing our fucking minds, you know?
Absolutely.
So, I did a bunch of stuff, and I got to play with a bunch of great musicians, and when I started really getting back to the Hyrax thing, I was like, it's time to get back out there and start traveling again because things started loosening up again, which was
Mhm.
scary and exciting at the same time because we were like some of the first guys to start going heading back out and doing shows and flying on airplanes. You didn't know what you were going to be dealing with, going from even Europe to South America, doing stuff in the United States. You didn't know how the airlines were going to be because of all this crazy shit. But no, man, just getting ready for a new record. Uh, we got a bunch of material ready to go. We're doing final rehearsals this week. Like we've got one today and one tomorrow and Saturday. So gonna be busy over the next 3 days rehearsing, and then we go into the studio next weekend. So April 28th, we start recording the new Hyrax record.
Cool.
Forward to it. I mean, more really looking forward to releasing it because I mean, it's one thing to talk about it, but you really just got to let the music get out there and let the people decide what they think. But we've been
Tell me
we've
ab
been hard and getting ready for some shows that are coming up that haven't been announced yet. But there's also some that are happening. Like we're doing this festival in Pittsburgh on my birthday. It'll be my
Mhm.
60th birthday. Going to be heading to Mexico. That's going to be announced next week. The show we're doing in Mexico and a bunch of other stuff. So yeah, once the record's out, more touring. There's also we just reissued the first two records, Raging
Mhm.
Violence and Power. So that's going on. We're actually waiting for a shipment of records to show up. So we're kind of every day keeping an eye on the front door because we got this big massive box of records coming in of the first two albums. First
Yeah.
reissue in almost 20 years since those records have been back on vinyl.
So when you hit me up a couple minutes ago, I was actually at the record store. We were looking online to see if Raging Violence is available yet.
Yeah,
Um, so I got a bunch of things I'd like to talk to you about. First thing is, dude, you're the king of DIY metal.
I try.
Um, for ever since I've known you for like the last 10, 15 years, um, it's been, you know, how do we do this? How do I do that? I always say, well, look at what Caton's doing because, dude, your mail order is on top of things. You're always pushing hierarchs, what we're doing next, what we're doing now. As you know, I'm pretty plugged into the metal world, and I know a lot of metal distro people, t-shirts, patches, all that stuff. And every time they're like, "What do you like?" I'm like, I like Violence and Exodus and Hyrax. He's all, well, Hyrax. I got to get a hold of Caton. You know what I mean? How
Yeah.
important is it to you to keep the DIY thing going? Because, Hyrax has been around since what, 83, 84,
Yeah.
and you're still keeping the train rolling. Uh, how important is that to you to be the king of DIY and keeping a thrash metal movement going by, you know, going to the mailbox every day and doing everything you got to do
Yeah.
to keep the train rolling?
Yeah, it's the main thing. That's what keeps you motivated, and also from traveling and doing concerts and meeting people. Like you just meet all these diehard people, and if they're still doing it too, like there's a lot of people like me, including you, that love this so much, and like you make really great friends and people that want to do their own businesses. Like I think that's the American dream, man. Having your own business and working with people that you like. And so that's the main reason I've kept doing it. And I think there's a big need for it. Like even when we do these backyard parties and stuff like that, we do it
Hmm.
because there's also an audience of people that don't get to go to nightclubs. Not everybody gets to go to a nightclub.
Yeah.
Even this last backyard party we did, there were so many kids there. It was insane. And
Hmm.
there were that came to the show that actually told us they just walked a couple of blocks to see the show, and they don't get to go to nightclubs. So like
Yeah.
right there, that was perfect for us. And also, as long as we can keep surviving, if we can sell enough shirts and records and stuff like that, and keep this thing moving, that's the main thing. We're not trying to make $1 million. I mean,
Yeah.
I get it. Some people get into the music just for that reason. Obviously, we want to survive, but it's not really about the money. It's about the scene and being able to survive as a bunch of people that think the same, like people that want to do their own thing. They don't want to work for somebody else. I mean, yeah, we have to do that too in some ways, but we always try to reinvest our money into the underground thing and independent, record companies and people that do their own labels and stuff like that. We love all that stuff. So
You
it's just
mentioned
it's something that we came from and we haven't forgotten. Like we still go to record stores, we still go to
Mhm.
small independent stores, we still talk to people that distribute records. It's just what we love doing.
Right. So you mentioned backyard parties. As you know, I used to live in Long Beach for a little while,
Right.
and it blew my mind how popular backyard shows were down there. I'm a big grindcore fan,
Yeah.
and you can't go to a club and see, excuse my language, but you can't go to a club and see Anal Cunt
Yeah. Yeah.
or Anal Blast or a band or the Meat Shits, bands like that.
Yeah.
But you can go to this Mexican dude's backyard and it's bad fucking ass. They got a PA, they got the stage, they got lights, and
Yeah.
it's
Amazing.
and homeboy's parents are out there making, you know, carnitas, burritos, and shit. And it's awesome.
Yes. It's the best, man. Yeah.
How was the show with Gould that you just played?
It was awesome. For one, Ghoul are a great band, and they're also great
Mhm.
people. Like just really cool dudes. They're like us. They work their asses off. A lot of
Yeah.
those guys are making their own suits and their own costumes and gear and shit. That's the prime example of an underground band. And
Right.
so we've also toured with them. We played with them in France before. So every time we see them, it's like a reunion of friends. But
I'm
that
a
show
big
was great because we were all coming from the same place. It's even at this party, what was insane, they had security, but they were cool. Like the security
yeah.
guards were totally cool. So there was people bringing in booze, like you could bring in your own 18 pack. I mean, it was really what I feel really proud about doing this stuff is that we're really doing it like it was in the 80s and shit. Like we're letting kids be themselves, come in as long as nobody's trying to hurt each other. That's our main thing. As long as nobody's getting hurt. But there's
Mhm.
people bringing in their own beer, and there's kids slam dancing in the pit with bongs in their hands. As
Yeah.
long as everybody's cool, we don't care, man. It's really kind of a thing that we want people to realize that we're lucky because our community gets along pretty well. Like
Mhm.
if anything, I might have saw a couple of dudes that were too drunk that might have had to be taken, escorted out because they were so hammered. But that's like the least of our worries. A couple of drunk people. It's just about unifying people, bringing them together from different cultures. We got people from all over the place coming from different cities, Arkansas. I mean, when we do these backyard parties, it's even amazes us the places people flew from just to see us play in a backyard. But
Mhm.
it's something special too. And I mean, I know you get it because you've been to backyard parties, but you'd be amazed how many people haven't been able to go to something like that. So it's
Mhm.
pretty awesome to bring that back. And I'm sure we'll still do them here and there, because it's just something that we care about. We can't do them all the time, obviously, because it's like even arranging them and setting them up. I mean, this backyard party that we just played was in a school
Yeah.
mention
Poor
nights,
kids
and
mansion.
these guys even
Mhm.
yeah, they brought in outhouses. They had bathrooms and stuff. They had vendors selling heavy metal merchandise, wristbands, and records. Vinyl records. People were buying records and stuff. So it was like basically like a backyard party with a swap meet. But they're doing it
Cool.
right. I mean, they're even able to sell tickets online, which back in the '80s we would have never thought of that. Like these
Mhm.
kids they're really savvy nowadays. It's amazing what they're doing with the internet and how they've been able to figure out little ways to make stuff happen.
Cool. So we're gonna jump into the '80s here in a few minutes because I can't have you here and not ask you about where I'm from.
Yeah.
But right now, so Hyrax is one of those old school thrash bands that has a worldwide reach. You and your lovely wife, please tell her I said hi.
I will for
Um, have traveled around the world together, bringing the world Hyrax. It's literally a mom and pop operation.
totally.
Uh, you have messaged me from Belgium and Japan and
Yeah.
Mexico, like,
Well,
hey, brother, greetings from Mexico or greetings from Belgium. You just did Bay Area International at Dynamo, and I'm
yeah.
so happy you got to do that because the picture of you in front of that crowd
It's
It
crazy.
brought a tear to my eye because this is one of the OG homies out doing it and doing it well. So my question to you is, say I'm in a young band that's going to Europe for the first time. What are some do's and don'ts for a young band that want to play around the world?
Well, that's good. You're asking an excellent question, and I'm one of the guys that would give you really good information about that. My band members will tell you, and because I've even had to have this talk with them too. Like, we get taken care of really well traveling, and there's a lot of things that are given to us, a lot of alcohol, stuff like that. But you've got to be
Hmm.
really careful, especially
Yeah,
nowadays since the pandemic, because they don't screw around on them airplanes. So
yeah,
just make sure you're not too hammered, not too drunk, because you gotta be careful on the planes. It's not like the old days where you could be grab assing and wrestling and all this crazy shit.
hmm,
Nowadays, people really take it serious on the plane. So just be try to use your head, be smart. There's always plenty of time to party when you get to the next location, when you land and you get to where you're supposed to be. The promoters always take really good care of you, but you just got to be smart about traveling through the airports. Things that we used to take on the planes back in the day, we can't take anymore. You can't take a bullet belt through the airport. You just
yeah.
be smart about those things. Even wristbands, like the old school Kerry King ones with the nails sticking out of them,
Hmm.
all that kind of stuff you can't take through the airport. I mean, it's obvious there's metal detectors, but you'd be amazed how many musicians still don't get it. Like, you got to take off certain stuff going through the metal detectors, and even boots, like really big boots and stuff like that. If they got steel toes, those go off through the metal detector. So this is kind of just a good advice if you're a young metal musician. Pack all that stuff in your bag that goes in the belly of the plane, because they allow it there, but you just can't take any of that inside of the plane when you're flying in your seats. You can't have a bullet belt on.
Yeah. What is your favorite part of the world to travel to?
My wife always tells me you shouldn't say that, because it's always another one. When you go to a next country, you get to, you're always learning about different cultures. I mean, I've been to Norway. I love Norway, Scandinavia in general, Sweden, Copenhagen, Denmark, all these different areas are just amazing. And it just depends. Like, South America is really awesome. Going to Brazil, Argentina, Chile, Ecuador, Lima, Peru, Colombia. I mean, the list goes on and on. Paraguay. But for me, it's just still. I think it's just really like, places that you've been to before when you go back. Like, every time we go back to the Bay Area, that's awesome. Or when we go to New York City, because I was born on the East Coast, so whenever I go back
Hmm.
to New York City, it's amazing. Obviously, Europe's great, and I mean all of it. Like, you go through Spain, Italy, Poland, Germany. All these different places are just amazing, especially because in Europe, metal is totally kind of normal there. So, like, if you go to a heavy metal festival, those festivals are done right. Like, that's kind of the standard that the world should be held up to. Is that a lot of the festivals in Europe are just amazing. But yeah, so it's hard for me to really say a favorite. But I mean, in the U.S., I love Texas. Going to Texas is always a good time. Um,
Hmm.
pretty much everywhere we've gone, we've always had a really good time. I mean, even when there's been something bad, there's usually something good like a few hours later. Whether you lose a
Yeah.
guitar, you can lose a guitar going through the airport, and then they'll bring it to your hotel, and everybody's happy. But you're really bummed when you first lose it, because you're like, we're gonna ever get it back. But usually we've always gotten stuff back. Even if there's been a sad moment. But I don't know, man. It's hard to say. I mean, the last place that I flew to was South America. It's always great going back there. But before that, we were over in Holland, and Holland's fantastic, especially if you like to smoke. If you like to
Hmm.
relax and smoke, Holland's the place to go. Speaking
Yeah.
of that, it's 420. But
Happy 420.
yeah, happy 420 to you too, brother. But I think it's just that I love humans. So I just love traveling anywhere. I mean, every
Hmm.
time we go back to Mexico, Mexico is one of the places we've been to the most. So every time we go back there, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah, just
Um,
worldwide humans,
okay.
man.
So I don't want to take up your whole day. because I want to ask you about your record collection. But as you know, I'm a history buff when it comes to Bay Area thrash metal,
That's awesome.
and you got to play. I want to ask you about a couple LA clubs, but you got to play the greatest thrash metal club of all time, Ruthie's Inn,
Yeah, that
which
place was awesome.
which we lived right around the corner from when I was this big.
Wow.
Paul Bailoff used to crash on our couch. It was rad. And as I've told you many times, my mom gave me all her flyers. My mom gave me all her metal shirts, everything. I had Ruthie's Inn flyers. I had the very first Megadeth flyer on my wall growing up. So what I want to ask you is the promoter for that place, Wes Robinson,
Yeah.
is one of my absolute idols.
Yeah.
What was Wes like, and what was he like to work with?
For us, he was awesome. I'm sure every band has a different, when you work with different people, everybody has a different way of looking at it. But he was always cool, really welcoming. When we would get there early for sound check, the first time we played there, we played with Exodus, and it was a great bill. Okay, it was Legacy opening,
Mm-hmm.
then it was Hyrax, then it was Exodus, and I think Megadeth. Maybe Exodus closed. I think Exodus might have closed. But
Yeah.
that show was Exodus, Megadeth, Hyrax, and Legacy before they became Testament.
Yeah.
And yeah, that place, I would say you're pretty much right. I mean, there were a lot of great places to go see shows, but Ruthie's, there was nowhere else like Ruthie's. Ruthie's was its own
Mm-hmm.
entity. Obviously, it launched a lot of thrash metal careers, if you think about it.
Yeah.
I saw the last big show I saw there was a secret show with Metallica before they did Day on the Green. That was the last time I was there. But no, Wes was amazing, always smiling. Anybody that met him knows that that dude smiled a lot, unless things were going bad. But he was pretty much always smiling, and just really good to us. And he provided a place that all of us were able to play in that actually could handle it. Like those were some of the most violent, insane shows of all time, and that place housed all of that. Like everybody played there, no matter who they were. They had to go through that place. It's one of the best venues for sure of all time, easily.
Okay. We're gonna do a game here. I'm gonna mention a name, and you tell me the first thing that comes to mind. Okay.
Sounds
First
good.
thing is Cliff Burton.
A bunch of things come to mind, man. That's a hard one. Main thing is he had a really good sense of humor. He wasn't really a loud dude. Like he pretty much checked everything out. He's more of a dude smoked his weed and kind of checked everything out, see what was going on. But when he talked, he always had something awesome to say. He was actually the guy that when I went to the first time I went to the house up there because I know Metallica so long that I remember the original house, which started obviously because they came from LA originally.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
when I went to
You
the
were in a
house,
band. You were in a band with Ron Coveney, right?
yeah, yeah. And that's another rad part of the whole thing is that I got to play with a lot of these great musicians. Just a really kind dude. Wanted to relax, smoke a little bit. Last time I saw him, we were in an alley next to the Stone. There's an alley there up in Chinatown, and they're all smoking.
Mm-hmm.
And I was because I was more into the beer, so I had like a 40. And we were in an alley, and next door at the Stone, we were partying because Robin Trower was playing that night. So we were all just
Yeah.
hanging out. So not all of us were going in. We were just partying because Robin Trower was up there in the Bay Area. And so that was like the last time I saw Cliff. But just a really good guy, and we bonded heavily over Merciful Fate. He was way into them when I was hanging out at the house up there, and we were just all me and Cliff Burton talked about was Merciful Fate. It was awesome. But
So
just
the
a really
next one I'm gonna throw at you is my personal hero, Paul Bailoff.
one of the best. That'd be the first thing off my lips right away. Off the tip of my tongue would be one of the best. Uh, Nobody will ever do what he did. He had his own thing. I just think he was being himself, and just a brilliant, brilliant dude in so many ways. I mean, I got to see him through the good times and the bad times, but I have nothing but great shit to say about that guy. One of the fucking best. Seriously. Pardon my French, but one of the best. Great, great dude.
So I got one more for you. What was it like to watch Legacy?
They were interesting because they were real new at that time, you know. So, but I remember thinking Alex, the guitar player, I remember thinking this dude's gonna be good, man. You could tell even back then, just he was already standout. He was already a standout guitar player, and that was before they were Testament. So he just think about it, he was already good. But I remember just thinking this guitar player, you know, but they were great. I mean, the only difference was is when they became Testament, Chuck Billy became the vocalist. So I remember Chuck being like the new guy, you know, back then, and then Exodus brought in Zetro to take over for Paul, which was really tough at the time because Paul's so beloved, and I love Zetro. He's a brother, you know, but Paul was also a brother too. So it's like having two brothers that you got to pick from. But Paul, he's always going to probably be my sentimental favorite, man. I knew him. We partied together. We bled together. You know, we did stupid shit together. It be between Paul and also even Possessed, Jeff from Possessed, Jeff Becerra, one of my,
Mm.
back then, we were almost thick as thieves, man. Me and that guy used to run around a lot. It's amazing me and Jeff are both still alive, actually. But
Who's your favorite band from that era?
man, you're killing me. Well, I'll tell you this, they were all stellar. But I will
Mhm.
say at their peak, like before the record came out, Exodus. Because I got to see them right before Bonded came out. They were fucking on fire. Like I was like, these guys will eat up a lot of bands.
So
But yeah,
one of the venues that I heard about a lot growing up down south was Fender's Ballroom.
yeah, yeah.
Tell me about that place.
That was kind of that was like our Ruthies. Well, I wouldn't say it was like that was our Ruthies.
Hmm.
Pretty violent, you know, between punks and skins and thrashers and heavy metal people and suicidal tendencies was pretty raging back then.
Hmm.
Uh, but that was our spot. Like everybody that would come through, like all the Bay Area bands would play there. Everybody, you
Hmm.
know, right away you'd have to go there. Be either Exodus or Testament or Death Angel. You know, uh, I'm sure probably later on when the other bands started coming down, like say Violence and Forbidden, they probably played there too. If they didn't play there, they probably played at the Country Club. But that was our spot. Like the Ramones played there, Motorhead played there, we played there, Megadeth played there. Everybody had to play there, and it was awesome.
Um,
It was just a big square block, like it was a room, a big square room with a stage in the middle of it, and no furniture because it was just too crazy. So there was no.
so Chuck Landis's Country Club was another big venue down there. What was that like?
That place was that was before even like Fenders took off. We used to
Hmm.
go to the country club to see everybody. Like I mean, even I remember the Kill 'Em All for One tour came through there, but everybody was playing their Loudness. That was probably the bigger place. So, like when you graduated from the smaller clubs, you went up to the country club, and it was an excellent venue. It also had a balcony. One of my favorite clubs to play.
So growing up in LA, I'm sure you went to the Olympic Auditorium as well, right?
Oh yeah, that was probably the most dangerous, violent of the places because it was also bigger. It was like it's a big auditorium. I mean, they had
Hmm.
boxing events there. They had wrestling, big
Yeah, I'm
wrestling.
a I'm a big wrestling guy, and the history of wrestling there is pretty
Yeah,
deep. They just made a movie about that place. I don't know if
yeah.
you've
I'm
seen
gonna
it.
have to watch that because yeah, the Olympic Auditorium, everything. That's why they could handle thrash and punk gigs because they did wrestling there. If they can handle wrestling and boxing, they can
Hmm.
handle stuff. But that's
So,
that. Go ahead.
I know. Go ahead and
Yeah,
finish your point.
yeah. No, that place was amazing. I mean, I was there the night that Harold O got his leg crushed, and
Ooh.
it was insane because he was crushed in a barrier where there's probably at least 5,000 people pushing up against that barrier. He's lucky he didn't lose his leg. I mean, it's amazing that his leg survived that. But it was a huge night, and it's a lot of great shows there. Overkill, Slayer played there, right? I think it was right.
Mhm.
So I think right around before Hell Awaits, or no, before Rain and Blood came out. It was in between Hell Awaits and Rain and Blood. So great time to see them. But I saw Slayer there. It was just a phenomenal show. Uh, Anthrax played there with, I believe, Metal Church. I mean, a lot of great shows happened there. Yeah, that was the Olympic Auditorium is definitely historic on a lot of levels. Like that place, they should enshrine it and never bulldozer it. That place should be around for history alone, just the
Yeah,
history
historic landmark and all that.
for sure.
So Hyrax is one of the first crossover bands. When I was growing up, Hyrax was one of those bands, like DRI and Suicidal, to where the punk guys were cool with it, the metal guys were cool with it.
Yeah,
We all bond over raging violence. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Um, what is your favorite memory of those times of, there's Suicidal, there's Dark Angel, there's Hyrax, there's Slayer,
Yeah,
and you're in the middle of that.
totally in the middle of it.
What was that time like for you, and what are some of your favorite memories of that time?
Well, the crazy thing was is it was all coming together. So you had suicidal tendencies, you had COC, DRI, Doctor No, the
Love
accused.
Dr. Now.
Yeah, the accused from up in Portland. You had all this stuff, Poison Idea, but you also had all the thrash bands, and you had LA bands like us, and you had Dark Angel, but you also had violence happening up in the Bay Area. There was Forbidden, there's Sacrilege, a lot of great bands. I can't name them all because there were so many great bands up in the Bay Area. Attitude Adjustment.
Yeah.
So this mix was going on, but like a lot of people don't realize down in LA it was getting so heavy, and Mike Muir knew. He was like, it's crossing over. He knew what was going on. And one of my favorite memories, even though we didn't do it, we probably should have, but we didn't do it because we didn't want to get caught up in the whole gang thing. But
Mhm.
or we thought we would get caught up in it. But there was a record called Welcome to Venice, and Mike Muir wanted us to be on it. So he had
Mhm.
he had a meeting with us, and I'll never forget it because even back in the meeting, he was wearing his bandana. I'm like, does this guy always wear his bandana? Back then, it seemed like he did. But anyways, he wanted us to be on the comp, but we decided against it because we just thought this whole thing with suicidals and skinheads fighting each other. We always were about bringing everybody together. Not that these other bands weren't, but our whole thing with Hyrax was always we don't give a shit if you're skinhead, punk, metal dude, hippie, whatever. As long as you love the music, that's all we care about. So we thought if we did this compilation record, people would consider us a suicidal band, even though we love suicidal. We just didn't want to be considered one of those bands because we wanted to kind of be our own thing. But yeah, so that record, if you ever find it, Welcome to Venice, it should have had a Hyrax track on it, but we decided against it.
You guys were on one of the first few Metal Massacre albums.
Yeah, yeah, that and a lot of people don't know it, but the first thing that we actually did even before that was there was a flexi disc put out by this label that didn't even have a name yet. They just had their address, and that's the first record that Earache Records ever released. Is
Oh,
that
wow.
Yeah, so a lot of people don't know we're the first release that ever was done by Earache Records. It's called the Angelic and Scrape Addict Flexi Disc. That thing's really hard to find. But no, it was just an interesting time that all this music was coming together. I mean, that's the greatest thing about thrash metal and punk, and spawning even say later on death metal and black metal. Even though you can go back to Venom and say black metal, but death metal was after thrash metal. People need to know that because it's
Mhm.
true. But
Right.
I think they're still very much a family because death metal just got more extreme, and that's great because it made people have to push the envelope. There have to be bands trying to be more heavier than Obituary or Cannibal Corpse or any of that stuff, which I love. But it's great to
Mhm.
see that younger bands will always try to take it to the next level, and I feel that's kind of what happened with thrash metal. A lot of the other genres of metal just took it further and further, which is cool.
Mhm. So one more East question. So it's back in the 80s, and I know some of your first shows were up here or over in Northern California.
Yeah.
So it's before the internet. It's before, networking was really a thing. How did Hyrax go upon getting shows out of the LA area, and how important was that to your career?
Oh, very important. We kind of approached it a little bit differently. Some bands kind of go around and you know, either pay to play or hit up bands and kind of do that kind of thing. Our thing was more about like we'll make our own shit happen. If we got to do backyard parties, which is how we started, we came
Mhm.
up out of backyard parties and then we went into the nightclubs. But then we got in the nightclubs and we were just able to draw like no matter what anybody says, at the end of the day, it comes down to that, especially locally. Like if you're a local band where you live, you should be able to draw some people. So we started packing clubs and then we started teaming up with other bands like Dark Angel. Whenever we would play with them, it'd be packed, because
Yeah.
both bands brought something to the table. And then you just kind of figure it out as you go. You figure out like, what your audience is, what they're into, and you kind of feed that machine. Like if you've got a following, you should never forget that. And especially underground fans, man, they don't forget either. So,
Yeah.
always try to take care of them and look out for them because they do that for you. I mean, most of the people that have been with Hyrax have been with us a long ass time. We've got a lot of loyalty, so we always try to do our best. Like even on the new record, we'll put a lot more love into it than most bands. There will always be a lyric sheet. There'll be some stickers in there, just a little bit more because the fans that buy your records deserve that.
You're very generous with that sort of thing. A lot of Hyrax fans are on my feed. Mikey Jack up in Canada got a package from you, and he's opening it online. He's pulling out flyers and stuff, and I just think that's very generous of you, and to go that extra mile to take care of your fans is an example for other bands to follow.
Well, you should always remember that. I mean, man, these guys have gotten us through everything. Like it's almost like you're a fucking football team. Like everybody's a part of it, whether they realize it or not.
Yeah, everybody's pulling from the same rope.
Yeah, and so when people go into somewhere like even Amoeba Records and they buy our records, that gets back to us. So we know where to put the records at, so these kids can find them. Just all these little things, or even them doing posts and tagging us. Then we're like, oh shit, this kid got our record. I mean, with some of them, you can't even believe how they found the records because they're so into it. They will dig them up wherever they got to go to get these records. They'll do that. So we always try to remember that, and even on the new record, it'll be the same. We're not going to forget where we came from. We never forget our style. We're not trying to be new metal. That's not what we are. We know what we're supposed to be doing, and we stick with that. And I think people love that because there's loyalty there.
Yeah. So your influence has reached beyond the generations. When Robert Trujillo from Metallica is holding up your record, and there's other famous people saying this record influenced me, and there's bands spawning out saying one of our biggest influences is Hyrax, and you guys have been out since the early 80s. What does that mean to you as the person that puts himself out as the face of the band? When you got Rob Trujillo holding up your record, what does that mean to you?
Blows my fucking mind. I mean, you just never know who has your music or who likes your music. I some of the stories that I hear still blow me away, especially when it's other musicians that I respect. I'm like, that's fucking amazing. When I found out the drummer from Deicide was a Hyrax fan, like when he was 16, that was one of the records he kind of cut his teeth on. For me, that's huge because I respect that band. Like I love Deicide, so I'm like to hear that there's like a mutual respect is amazing, and it kind of fuels you. Like you once you start getting stuff happening, you're like you want to work harder because you're just stoked that people are they're getting and digging what you're doing. So for me, it just is a constant reminder to keep working harder. That's all I ever think about. Kids posting pictures of records or when they're wearing their gear, any of that stuff just pushes me more. And I appreciate the support, and I want to show them love.
So, are you familiar with the band Hatred?
Yeah, yeah, from the Bay Area. That's Zetro's kids. I think he's two of his sons are in that band.
Yeah. So, that band formed at my Hyrax show.
That's crazy.
So, that night in Modesto, you guys came out and played for me. And thank you very much.
Yeah.
Zetro was there. Cranial Damage was one of the openers. Kosa from Hatred was a guitar player for that band.
Wow.
Knuckle Duster played. Nick Souza and Cody Souza were in that band. Zetra was at that show, and it all came together at a Hyrax show.
That's
So
awesome. Yeah,
that's
and I
something you can hang your hat on.
and by the way, much respect to you. Thanks for supporting that stuff because dude, you were there for us even back
Yeah,
then in Modesto. You know what I mean? So that
yeah,
that shows badassness, and I just want to say seriously, thank you.
yeah,
But
no problem.
it's amazing to hear that story because I remember them being there. I remember Zetra showing up, and but I didn't know that's when they all came together. That's an awesome story, man.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about DJ Caden. Um, you have one of the sickest record collections in the history of mankind.
Thank you, brother.
Um, when COVID was a big thing, you would go live and just talk about your records. And then I noticed a few years ago you started DJing at clubs. What is it like to spin at the Rainbow Bar and Grill?
Pretty awesome, especially on every bar, no matter how awesome it is. There's certain nights where it's kind of slow, but that place, the amount of musicians that come through and people from other countries, like there'd be times I'd be DJing and people would come up to the window and go, "I knew you were DJing," and it'd be like a dude from Belgium or some, like Holland
Hmm.
or somewhere from Europe that would be on vacation in America. They would go to the Rainbow because that's one of the places that a lot of
Yeah,
people like to go,
yeah.
and they would go just by the old school metal you're playing. I knew you were in the booth, but just a lot of great stuff. Like every time I come out, and one dude I remember telling me, it's almost like you're doing therapy, believe it or not, with the music. Certain people, man, they hear certain songs and it just makes their day. But I remember
Hmm.
this guy telling me he came out from Chicago to go to a wellness retreat, like for a 3-day retreat. And he goes, I went for 3 days and that didn't do shit for me. He goes, I came up here for 1 hour and heard you playing Rush, and that was better for me than going to this retreat where I was supposed to get some kind of mental help. He goes, I got more mental help sitting here listening to you play Rush. So,
Hmm.
a lot of times, you realize when you're DJing, it's really about making people happy. Like for me, I always, I try to play stuff that I like too, but a lot of the times I play stuff for other people just because I know how stoked it makes them. I mean, you'd be amazed if you play one request for one person, how much it makes them feel happy and just special because somebody played a song for them. So I love DJing at the Rainbow. That was great. I did that for 5 years. Had a lot of good times working at that bar, obviously, and just
Hmm.
the amount of musicians that would come through there. It's unbelievable the people that stop in there still to this day that go to the Rainbow. It's a great place. Like if you're a fan of music and you want to learn or you're into the history of music, that is one of the spots that you should go to. You should go to the Sunset Strip in Hollywood and check out the Rainbow.
I've been there probably about a dozen times,
Yeah.
and the last couple of times I'll be like, "Is Caden here tonight?" They're like, "No, you just missed him," and I'm just like, "Oh shit!"
Can you
Got
give
to
me
meet.
1 second? My guitar player just showed up. I'm gonna let him in real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, man, come on in. I'm doing an interview. Just let yourself in. Yeah, no worries. All right, we're gonna work on some music, but I still got some time here.
Yeah, I got a few more minutes, and I'll let you go. Then I'm gonna play some music for you. So your records, man. I've heard of a lot of bands that you have, but I never sat down and listened to it. You
Yeah,
turned me on to Tigers of Pantang. You
that's
turned me on
awesome.
to it. You turned me on to Exciter, which I have right over there. I have a giant crate of records,
That's
and
awesome.
Razor, and bands like Witch Fiend,
Yeah,
and yeah, dude. So you are a purveyor of old school metal. You keep it alive. You keep it promoted. Um, why is it important for you to keep promoting these bands, listening to these bands, buying the records, and telling people about it? What inspires you to do that?
I think it's a little bit of me giving back just because I know I can kind of feel for a lot of those bands like I always try to promote bands that maybe got missed or
Mhm,
maybe just didn't have a lot of promotion behind them even though I don't get paid for it. This is not about money at all. It's
mhm.
more about kind of like I feel like some of these guys are old school blues musicians even though they're heavy metal musicians or punk
Yeah.
musicians. So I feel like maybe I should tell some kids and they might buy their records, and it might help that band. It's more about respect. A lot of the bands that I promote because I respect their music and I love it. So I try to tell people about it.
Yeah. Riot is a band that I'd never heard of, and you turned me on to them, and I love Swords and Tequila.
Yeah, yeah.
How
That's
many
a
record how many records do you think you have now?
I stopped. You know what's funny is I knew it was getting kind of out of control, so I'm one of those dudes that actually stopped counting. Most real crazy record collectors they count down to the very they count every single record. After about 1,000s when I stopped because I was like, do I really want to know how many do I have? But I know guys that have it written down in books. I have a friend who has a whole binder with every record he has in it. What records he's looking for. But I've always tried to do it more like where it's more out of an impulse. Like when I go into a store, the record really has to mean something to me, and then I'll buy it. Like I think some people just buy too many records. They don't really savor them. So usually for me, it's like if I'm looking through a collection, like I was in South America and I already had Kill 'Em All, but I found another version of it. It was a Korean pressing of Kill 'Em All. So
Mhm.
I picked that up. But usually it has to really be one of those records where I'm like, I gotta have this because I don't want to just buy a bunch of records for the hell of it. I really put a lot of thought into the records I do buy.
What record in your collection would you say is your most valued record? Be like, if I had to get buried tomorrow, this one's coming with me.
Man, I think everybody has it could be financial, or it could also be where it's just a family keepsake or something that means so much to you. It's not even about money at that point. But
Yeah.
I have a lot of records. A lot of them are rare, but there's one that I have because it's my brother gave it to me. It's kind of the record that made me get more into it and like just lose my mind and be a record collector. But it's the import version of "Are You Experienced" by Jimi Hendrix.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
Gatefold and
awesome.
yeah, it's one of those records that you can't even really show. Like there's certain records you can't show even on Facebook because there's all these Facebook police that will mark you out and say, "Oh, that's too risque." Because one time I posted a cover from the Scorpions. I posted Virgin Killer, and I
Hmm.
I get it. Some people completely freaked out, and I understand that. But for me, I don't look at those covers like that. To me, it's artwork and but even like say Houses of the Holy by Zeppelin, you can't really post that record because it's got
Yeah,
kids. But even
yeah.
the Hendrix cover, all the ladies on that cover are of age. They're not underage, but they're
Hmm.
new, so I don't even know if you could put that up. But that cover, the original Hendrix cover, has these nude ladies on it.
Yeah.
And what's funny, when I was like 13, my brother, who was my older brother, he gave me that record and it just means a lot to me because my brother gave it to me, and then it made me, like I said, get way more into it. I was buying after that record. I bought the Kinks, the Stones. I was just into it. So
So
that
what's
go ahead.
what's the holy grail that you haven't gotten yet? What's the one record that you've been looking for years that you haven't been able to find, but you're like, one day I'm gonna have that album?
Wow. There's quite a few, but the main one is the first. Believe it or not, because there's a lot of people I love, like Jeff Beck's one of my all time
Hmm.
favorite
Yeah, we
guitar.
just lost him recently.
Yeah. But back to Hendrix, it's the first Hendrix album. That's the import version of the first Hendrix record. But a lot of times it's not about finding it, it's also finding it like intact, like finding it clean. Is it not too beat up? Like the records that are holy grails to me are the toughest ones to find because I'd like to find a clean copy. It's easy to find beaters, like records that are kind of
Hmm.
beat up. But finding a clean copy of the first Hendrix import, that's one of the top priorities on my list. Not too
So
many. There's a few, that I wait out. Like sometimes I'll find a copy and it's just not clean enough. But most of the records that I have been looking for, I pretty much found. thank God, because you have ones that you've been wanting for a while. So when you find them, you're just floored. I'll show you one real quick though. This is another one that this is a promo for the first Van Halen record,
Yeah.
and I think it's a 5 song. Yeah, it's got Running with the Devil, Eruption, Ice Cream Man, You Really Got Me, and Jamie's Crying.
So that's the demo that got them signed, correct?
It's actually no, it's a promo from the first record, which that's awesome because if you're a
Mhm.
Van Halen fan, the first record is holy grail. But this is a red vinyl promo.
Yeah.
There's a famous picture of David Lee Roth chalking up lines in a limousine with Eddie
Hmm.
Van Halen sitting right next to him. It's amazing to see this picture. David Lee Roth just chalking up this big cocaine line on a record, and the record that he's doing it on is this record.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I'm sure that one of these days, if you see a picture of Roth and Eddie in the back of a limousine, look
No,
closely,
I
and,
I know I know exactly what you're talking about.
that's the record. So yeah,
All
I
right,
mean,
buddy.
yeah. But much love to you, dude. I appreciate you getting a hold of me to talk to me about my music and
Hmm.
what's going on with the band. And
Yeah.
yeah,
So let's close it out because I know you got stuff to do, and I got a shit ton of weed to smoke.
there you
Um,
go.
so number one,
Yeah.
what's next for Hyrax?
Recording studio April 28th for the new record. Uh, the guys seem to be ready. We got a couple more, probably 2 to 3 more rehearsals before we get in the studio, and then go on and do that. I can't wait to get it done. The main thing is get it done and let people start hearing it. And then there'll be
Hmm.
some more announcements. We got some festivals coming up. There's 2 more festivals, one on the East Coast, one in Mexico. Those should be announced like next week. And then back to hitting the road after the record comes out.
Cool. Tell me about the guys that you have in the band right now, real quick.
All right, real quick, who just got here is Neil Metcalf, my guitarist, who plays leads and rhythm. Uh, yeah, stoked to have him. He drove out from Tennessee, he just packed all his shit in his car and wanted to do this. He's like the guy that kicked me in the ass to get this thing rolling again. And then there's
Tennessee is you from? Because I could spit and hit Tennessee from here.
what part? What part? Knoxville. Knoxville.
Oh, I'm an hour and a half away from Knoxville. I lived in Knoxville for 3 years.
Right on. Yeah, he says,
Cool.
"Hey, what's up?" By the way. And then there's Chris Aguilar. I mean, I butcher his last name all the time because I'm horrible at saying the R's. But our bass player,
Hmm.
Chris, he's young, full of energy, brings a lot to the band, creative. We've got some very good musicians. And then our drummer, Danny Walker, and he's been around. So I think once we get this record recorded, we'll let the music do the talking.
Cool. Where can people find Hyrax on social media?
There's Facebook, obviously. So if you're on Facebook, just HIRAX, Hyrax,
Hmm.
HIRAX. And then also we're on Instagram, easy to find us there as well. Just punch in the name. And all the other social networking websites, there's so many that it's, nowadays, how many do you keep up with? But we're on the main ones that everybody's on, we're on those.
All right, my friend. This has been an honor to have you on my show. Like I said earlier, I literally started the show to have you on it. So thank you very much. You have been a very cool guy to me over the last few years. And when my grandma died, dude, you were a stud. You got a hold of me. You gave me nice words on your live video. I just want to thank you for your friendship. Thank you for being a cool guy to look up to as a mentor.
Hey,
Um,
much love and respect, man. That's what it's all about. Like,
yeah,
that's the problem with this world. Not everybody shows each other enough respect, and
I will
family.
lay down. I will lay down in LAX traffic, dude, for Hyrax, man.
Well,
So
hopefully, we'll never have you do that. You can just come to the show and drink some booze and fucking drink some weed, smoke some weed. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. All right,
Have
buddy.
have yourself a good time. Listen, happy 420.
Yeah.
If I'm gonna do an interview on 420, it's got to be with you, Mike.
Right on. All right, buddy. I'm gonna play some music. You have a good day. Tell your guitar player I always say what's up. We're gonna kick it off with the greatest band of all time. This is a rare ZZ Top cover. This is Beer Drinkers
Yeah.
and Hellraisers. You're listening to it on Soundstream the Underground. And thank you very much, Keaton W. Remember, Keaton W. Pena without the W is like peanut butter without the jelly. Have a good day. Have a good day, sir. And I'll talk to you soon.
All right, man. We'll see you. Cheers.
Later. Get the play. All right.
Good job, Mike.
Thanks, bud.
I'll see you soon, okay?
You will. Have a good day.
All right. Cheers.
If you see me walking down the line with my favorite honky-tonkin' mind, well, I'll be round about summertime with my can of bitter and a porcupine, beer drink and hellraiser. Little girl, baby, don't you wanna come with me? Coffee flies when the band gets high.
Mike Vanek Sucks Podcast Network presents Sounds from the Underground. We're going back to our more traditional format now, playing some old school metal. Want to thank my homie, brother, and mentor, and I do not say that word lightly, fucking Keaton W. DePena from Hyrax, dude. Oh my God, that was fun. I'll play a few more songs for you. Basically music that, you know, Keaton turned me on to. I'm a big supporter of old school metal, dude, and so is he. And these are some bands that, you know, through his social media post that I got turned on to, because there's a band that I wouldn't know if it wasn't for Mr. Caton W.G. Pena. This is a band called Tokyo Blade. Hella fucking cool shit. If you've never heard of them, you better fucking jump on it, because this is one of the best bands of all time. Check it out.
When the sun goes down and the evening rolls around, that's the time I find got the ribbon on my mind. Ribbon on my mind. More and more lately I find I've got taste for living. I'm living for the ribbon. I've got that blue ribbon on my mind. Blue ribbon, dear. I've got a taste for living. I'm living for the ribbon. I've got that blue ribbon on my mind. Naturally good Pabst. America's premium beer since 1844. That's a lot to look forward to. Can't beat the bear for fun or hams for great taste. Always refreshing. And when you want a light beer, enjoy a cold, crisp ham special light. Watch it. When you thirst for two, but what you're doing isn't through. That's the time to take a churro break. Anheuser-Busch Rolling. Brewed naturally with nothing artificial to give you a crisp, refreshing beer that won't fill you up so it won't slow you down. Take a natural break and hyper push. Natural light is time to take a natural break. Natural. Taste the high country. Taste the high country. Once you taste the high country, no downstream beer will do. Coors is brewed with pure Rocky Mountain spring water and its own special high country barley. It's no downstream.
City beer. It's Coors.
Taste the high country. Climb up to Coors.
Man, you know the rules, Jeff. First man in the water's got to buy the beer. For everybody.
Jeff, I hope you're better.
Bro.
And Jeff, you get a good one.
Get caught in the rain.
When you have to get the beer, don't fool around. Get the best name in the business. Old Milwaukee Beer.
Oh, Milwaukee.
Old Milwaukee is named after the city that needs beer.
fastest-growing major beer in the country. Deb, you're a lot better at picking beer than you are at road rage. Well, I think I do pretty good at both. Old Milwaukee beer tastes as great as its name.
Mike Vanek Sucks Podcast Network presents sounds from the goddamn underground. Hold on. Happy 420, motherfucker. Yeah. That's how you know it's real. So, yeah. This has been one of the best 420s I've had since going to Hippie Hill on a whim. Dude, massive thanks to my homie, friend, mentor, Caton W. DePena from fucking Hyrax. Dude. It actually happened. When I started this show, it was pretty much to interview that guy, and it's been 2 years, so well, shit. All right, guys. My name is Mike Vanek, and I suck, and that's our time for today. I'm gonna go to 420 Festival in Abingdon, so let's go check that out. God damn. All right, guys. So we're gonna leave you with some Hyrax. Check me out on Instagram, Facebook, and that all important Sounds From Me Underground YouTube page. Just look up Mike Vanek Sucks. Also, I have a Mike Vanek Sucks page that you may be watching right now. Hey, please support Ceremonial Sound, the best record store in the history of the fucking world. Go in there and tell Shane Mike Vanek Sucks sent you. He might hook you up. He probably won't. Please support, in honor of 420, Psycho Baked, novelty baking and catering company for the best fucking edibles imaginable. Hit up Katie at psychobake420 at gmail.com. And once again, tell her Vanek sent you. Hey, fucking please support my favorite bar in the history of the world, fucking Elder Brew in Bristol, Tennessee. Please support the Holler House in Bristol, Virginia. Please support The Hideaway in Johnson City, Tennessee. Please support Mountain Smoke Shop, Other Dead Designs, Tope Suicida brand. This is Ska with Mida Goodwin. Please support Modesto View Magazine, modestoview.com, Bungalow Bunnies Burlesque Troupe, Capital Chaos TV in Sacramento with my buddy Zoran. And tomorrow night, we're going to be doing a special benefit to try to get the lights turned back on for Gun Music Radio. If you have a dime to fucking give us, go to PayPal, booking209 at yahoo.com. All right, guys, I'm Mike Vanek, and I suck. Happy Hyrax Day. Happy 420. Gonna leave you with this. Keep one foot in the gutter, one fist in the goal, motherfucker.
I need to put shoes on.
Okay.
Are you still on the phone?
Hold on. Say happy 420. Say happy 420.
Happy 420. Are you live right now?
Mm-hmm. Happy 420.
Are your people local?